So, good evening, everybody, and good afternoon, wherever you are. It's me, the recycling guy, and today we are here with a very special guest. We're here with Jade Eddy, the owner and CEO of MT Returnables. Now, MT Returnables is located in upstate New York in the Glens Falls region. Am I correct?
Yep, Glens Falls area.
Very good. And Jade Eddy's an industry expert that's been around for quite some time. She's going to be sharing her insights and expertise on all things bottle redemption in NYC. And so, yeah, Jade, please introduce yourself before we get into our series of interview questions.
My name is Jade. I am the owner of a redemption center, and we should be celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, but because the state has failed on this bottle bill legislation, we're looking at possibly closing our doors instead.
Okay. Wow. All right, Jade. You've seen the ins and outs of this business. We're going to get to all of the difficulties and challenges and in the next couple of questions. And so, pretty much, well, I guess the people want to know because you're actually kind of a popular figure in the space as far as people inside of New York State know about your exploits. Even down here in the Bronx, where I'm located, is actually they've heard about you. A couple of redemption center owners, operators actually have heard about. Yeah, I know about Jade. Yeah, and they say speak very highly of you. I just wanted to say that. And so, how did you get started in the redemption center business?
Well, I actually started working for my father. He's the one who opened our redemption center in the early 2000s. He lost a job at a paper mill. They packed up and went down to Mexico, and the whole community was put out of work. He tried to find another paper mill job, but because so many people were doing the same thing, he couldn't find another job. That doubled with the fact that he had been in that business for a couple of decades and had seniority and expectations on higher pay. These corporations basically are like, we can hire some kid straight out of high school and pay them minimum wage over hiring you. So he started collecting bottles and cans in town and literally was just driving around town and bringing them home to our garage. And I was in high school at that point. My sisters and I thought he was having a nervous breakdown.
Well, I just
We
wanted
didn't
to
think
let you
he was
finish.
well with the whole
I'm
losing his
sorry.
job thing. Go
I
ahead.
wanted to be you to be able to finish your whole thought, but I wanted to say shout out to your dad. He is the original recycling guy. That is impressive.
Yeah.
And what year was this? When did he? What year do you remember him first actually bringing the first set of back? Or when did you start noticing like, yo, what is dad doing?
It was around 2002, 2003, because it was my senior year in high school. Um, and, we really just thought he was kind of losing it. And then he went and he got a building, and we were like, he's really lost it. Because at that point, redemption centers weren't well known. Like, I had never heard of one before. And so we didn't know what the heck he was doing. And it turned out that he was onto something and he got himself into a business. His mindset back then was, I don't want to work for another corporation because now I feel like it's unsafe. He thought if I open my own business, then I'm in control and I can have safety and security and then provide that to my kids. And he shouldn't be wrong in that. The system should be providing that, but because New York State is doing what they're doing or not doing what they're doing, should be doing, they've created the situation that we're in now.
Yeah,
So the safety
yes.
net is gone, and it's infuriating to see the state rip apart my father's dream like that.
Your dad is actually one of the original owners in what I would call a very much needed cottage industry. you know, and that's the term that a lot of people would, I guess, identify with. Because what
Mhm.
is a redemption center? You could say something about people in a, what is a redemption center? What is that, a church? I don't know what that is. It's like when your dad first started doing this in 2001 to 2000 and now, you know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
you're the continuation of that business. I actually dig that so much as someone that loves new ideas, innovative new stuff, and a challenge. That is like, to me, the chef's kiss. So, moving on. So, what inspired you and motivated you to sell this industry? Why didn't you sell your daddy's spot? Or you know what I'm saying? You know, why didn't you
Well,
get rid of the business?
it's a particular job, right? Like you have to organize a bunch of things. Uh, I'm neurotic, so I like it. I actually enjoy it. It can be absolutely disgusting. We have a whole Instagram page dedicated to the disgusting things that we find in bags. We tell people it's X-rated. We warn them. There's a warning label for that page.
Oh, I'm gonna tag your page in the comments. Don't worry,
Yeah,
people are gonna, maybe a few people are gonna show up
you
and get a
know,
laugh
we
with you
got a
because
lot of questions how things end up in bottle bags sometimes.
yeah. So
but
that is interesting. It
but
is
I
not
like
just a
it.
regular job.
It's not for everybody. And the thing that I like about it is yes, it can be exhausting. It's very physical manual labor, but at the same time I always joke I don't need a gym membership. I just go to work every day. I like that I am physically moving all day long and it keeps me busy and that makes the day go by faster. I don't think that I would do well at a desk job. I don't like the whole sitting around thing.
So basically, a chance of taking a stab at pursuit of happiness in America by not working for the big corporate titans. That is
Yep.
so respectable and commendable. And basically, just what I was always thinking about this industry since I kind of met it and met people like you in this industry, which is very interesting. You know, you are actually pretty popular in this space. Yeah, just I wanted to FYI that. And
I kind of fell into it. I didn't mean to. It just kind of happened.
mhm.
But um, I've always been very vocal about things that I feel are wrong and good at advocating for things. And so I've been trying to help other business owners find their voice
Okay.
and learn how to fight for themselves because a lot of them just don't know what to do.
Okay, so what was the biggest challenge when you first took over the business?
Honestly, the first year was really great. My dad passed away unexpectedly in a motorcycle accident in August of 2020. And we didn't reopen for probably 8 months. It was a challenge. It was a real challenge. I went through a significant grieving period. So that was a personal thing that I had to deal with. But when I finally found my footing again and decided I need to reopen the doors because quite frankly, right after he passed away, I was having nightmares that he was yelling at me that the business was closed because he really took his business seriously. It was a big part of who he was. And so I felt like I needed to get the doors open again. And I mean, the local government, the state, everybody put me through the ringer to get the doors open again. And I couldn't even get a loan to open because the bank was telling me, you're unemployed. And I'm like, I'm unemployed because the business is no longer open. I need this money to reopen the business. So
Yeah, if
I,
you allow me to say something, I think like a lot of financial institutions tend to overlook the much
mhm.
needed work that is done in the industry. Because you got to imagine when you're applying for a loan, what do you classify as? Are you
They don't even
shipping?
have a
They don't
category
have
for
a
us.
category, so that
Nope.
necessarily puts you in a different bucket.
Yep.
The non-considerables in the banking sector, we call them the untouchables. I'm
Well,
not
and
in the banking sector. I'm just making that up.
the woman working at the bank who was declining my application was a customer. So she knew everything that
Mm,
was going on. She knew that I had no power over the situation. But
okay.
banks are robotic.
Let's move on to our next question. Okay, so today, what are the most significant trends affecting the redemption industry? The significant trends meaning like, you're seeing all the new bottles that are coming out. They got bottles that are basically containers. Let me not say bottles for the viewers. Let me say you see in all these new containers that are made of different materials. Like now they have like paper, water in a can. I mean water in a carton. So they have different containers. Will that be returnable and that sort of
I
thing?
don't
There's
think they're going
actually
to switch to paper because it doesn't have value as
yes,
far as recycling goes.
I think yeah. So with that, what are the trends that you see in like consumer behavior let's start that over there?
Consumer behavior, I would say the biggest change we've seen in recent years is the shift to pre-mixed cocktails. People are always looking for that convenience in life because, life is hectic. And so what we used to see was people going to a liquor store and buying their chosen spirit and then going to the grocery store to buy their mixer, their soda, ginger ale, whatever, and they would return those containers. We are losing a significant volume and seeing a lot more containers actually end up in the landfill as a result of these premixed beverages now being on the market because people are choosing those instead. And the state has not updated the bottle bill to capture those containers because they are sold in the liquor stores. They do not have a deposit on them.
Yeah, and I've also noticed just from my short time in the industry that there's really no redemption centers that handle their materials. Like we actually discussed earlier about the buzz balls,
Mm-hmm.
there's really nowhere to turn those in and there's no real I mean, where do these things even come from? You know what I mean?
The thing
That
about
sort
New
of
York
thing.
State that's very frustrating is that they do things in a complicated manner. So even in the bottle group that we've created with other owners, owners will often ask, where does this go? Where does this beverage go? There's no one answer to that question because in my area of New York, it might go to this one distributor, but down in New York City, it'll go to a different distributor. And then in Western New York, again, you have a different distributor. So it's created an issue where some redemption centers can't find where containers go. And so New York State is literally mandating that consumers pay that deposit, but there's a bunch of red tape preventing them from getting it back on certain beverages. And I don't feel that that's right.
Yes. So there's definitely a lot of like let's say some inefficient legislative holdups as of right now. And so seeing as how bottle redemptions is not like a typical recycling industry. When you say recycling, most people think about scrap metal. Let's just take it
Mm-hmm.
there. See, people think about scrap metal in the sense of you take some copper. Have people have driven to you and said, "Do you take air conditioners?" Have people ever come to you like that? I have. I mean,
I have
I've
had
had
people
people.
call me and ask about car tires. And when I explain to them I'm only a bottle return center, they scream at me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we're not a recycling center. That's not what we do.
Yeah, that is so hilarious, man. Oh my goodness. You don't even know the type of stuff that
Yeah.
I've been asked. Do I take car tires has been one, air
Mm-hmm.
conditioners two. Oh man, what else? Entire vehicles, as a matter of fact, three. I actually bought a Honda once from a lady that it was a long story that I ended up having to buying a Honda. And yeah, I guess we ended up recycling it too. But but anyway, see this how it's not this is not your typical recycling industry. And the changes in consumer behavior outside of that, do you see any trends affecting as far as technology?
We've got a lot of new technology nowadays where there are counting machines that count containers. There are sorting machines that can be programmed to sort them. They're very expensive though. And, some of those machines can cost more than a house or a building. You're talking $300,000. And with the current state of the industry, nobody can afford to purchase those. And doubled with the fact that we just discovered in recent years that there was supposed to be this grant program set up to help obtain that technology. Redemption centers were excluded in the language of that grant program. And also, it's never been funded.
That is very
So
interesting
it's a
information right
it's
there.
in name only. It's
It is
never
in
been a
name only.
usable grant program.
Wow. Is there
Very
any way you could
disappointing.
possibly send me the link to that a little later? I'll leave it
Yeah.
in the show notes. Yeah, definitely. Because you know what? You bring so much insight into this kind of plasticky industry. You know, we gotta get through this plastic. I'll tell you what. So
Mm-hmm.
this industry really, seeing as how it's dictated by the state, the prices and the fees associated with them, the prices, I mean the rates, not the prices, the rates of deposit and the fees associated with handling are just basically dictated by the state. We don't see fluctuating prices day to day like typical commodity traders or scrap metal copper dealers and wheelers, people like that. And so that's the main difference that I want to add into this industry. So it's not something that we see fluctuating prices where you can sit on a stock of plastic bottles and it's not going to gain any value. It's
No.
actually just taking up space. And so versus like steel recyclers, metal recyclers, they can sit on some stuff for 2 years. I've seen it, and then they could actually make a whole lot of money, or they really got to get rid of it because it's like, oh man, this stuff is just taking up space in our yard. So take your pick. You know, I know some guys that are really looking for. So I know people in the recycling industry that are really looking for. Oh man, they're probably going to sit on the copper because of the coming metal tariffs that our administrative in chief is going to get into. But we're pretty much talking about the state level stuff that we can control for now. Yeah, we have a lot of people that are looking for anticipated higher prices in the metal recycling industry and that sort of thing. So we don't get those kind of surprises. We get a flat rate, and we've received a flat rate for pretty much a little under. At this point, the last update was in 2009. Do you care to share anything about the last update to the bottle bill, which introduced actually plastic water bottles?
Yep. So I've been around long enough to live through that change. My father opened the Redemption Center prior to that, and then I was working for him when it happened. You saw so much positive impact throughout the state with that bottle bill passing. And that was so simple. It literally just increased the handling fee for businesses taking back these containers, and it added only water. Water probably accounts for more than half of the plastic I take in. So that tells you that it works by
Yes,
putting a
it
deposit,
does.
putting a value on that beverage. It
Um, let
it
me
caused change.
let me add on to that. As a matter of fact, when I started recycling as a kid, we always kept soda bottles and cans, right? So
Hmm.
we always had soda bottles and cans that the return machines always accepted. Return machines have been around for a long time, since I believe the 90s when this technology first started emerging. And so I never remembered water bottles. And just one day, water bottles were included and everything like that. So, you know, as someone that's a lifelong person that's living in New York, you know, I didn't even notice when the change happened. So only you would actually be there to witness it because you were inside the industry. So a
Yeah,
lot of people I feel need to know that. Yeah.
we had some customers even after like 2 years. They didn't know that water was returnable. We had to tell them that it was returnable because New York State did not do a good job at advertising that change and educating the public that they could now do that. But also during that bottle bill change, New York State shifted money from the unredeemed fund to their own pockets. So
Uh-huh. We're gonna get into
maybe
that.
they didn't
As a
enlighten
matter of fact,
people for a
we
reason.
we can actually lay it out right here. How do redemptions work in New York State? And since just keep it short, you can tell them about the handling fees and all the way up until the unredeemed fund. And you don't have to elaborate anymore because we're going to share a link for anybody that's interested.
So basically, a consumer buys a beverage at a store, pays a 5 cent deposit. When they return it to either a store or a redemption center, they get that 5 cents back, 100% of it back. If they don't return their container, say they throw it away or they litter, that 5 cents had already gone into a fund. And it used to be that the beverage distributors kept 100% of that fund. And the whole intention was they used that money to pay the handling fees to the businesses who take in the product and ensure that it's recycled. But the state in 2009 changed it so that they now take 80% of that fund, and the beverage distributors only get 20% of that fund. So now we're seeing issues where the state is making a significant amount of money. They made $131 million just last year off of that fund. And the beverage distributors, they don't want to increase our handling fee. They're claiming that they don't have enough money coming out of that fund. So we kind of have this tug of war going on over that money,
I
and
wanted to
it's
share
not being
something
used
about
for its
that.
intention.
Now, I wanted to share something about that because what you're saying is very, very important. So, around 2009, when the water bottles actually started becoming the predominant source of plastic pollution and waste that we see today, the state stepped in and actually increased the state's revenue by a considerable margin. And so, just FYI to anybody that really wants to get a better look in the industry and everything like that, the plastic water bottles actually have taken over as the premier beverage. Single-use plastic water bottles are just the premier beverage of choice that people, people don't always drink soda. People don't, not everyone drinks beer. You know what I mean? And so that sort of thing. Water, everyone drinks water. And so not only has the state profited, these corporations have also profited
Mm-hmm.
immensely. And so how the corporations profit, the distributors profit, everyone profits, even redemption centers profit. But how much? We're going to get into that as well. So redemption centers are at the tail end of the industry. Nobody wants to deal with redemptions. In fact, from me here in New York, there are two big Coca-Cola, excuse me, Pepsi return center. Pepsi distributors on both sides of the bridge over here in the Bronx and in Queens. And there's one on the exact opposite side of the bridge. And so they only one side in Queens has a redemption door. And it's a part in the facility that's way in the back. You get to see the planes landing and everything. That's real nice. I've delivered back there a few times, and it's basically where people can come, and if you have the exact amount sorted properly, bottles and cans of their choosing, and the days that they give you the ability to return them, you can get the honor and privilege of returning cans and bottles to Pepsi. Woo! And so these big corporations, for all the waste that they put out, they seem to make it extremely hard to to make it facilitate bringing their own dirty stuff back. Come on, this stuff is really harmful. We're only finding out how harmful that plastics and microplastics are as years go by. And so that's something I also wanted to share and everything like that. Just these are a lot of the challenges that we see operationally, right? Because making it hard to redeem the bottles, not being forthcoming on the side of the part of the state, it's all part of the overall problem. New York should have advertised it everywhere, and there should have been more funding thrown at infrastructure and redemption businesses. At this point, you're a good old American. You should have 4 or 5 of these locations under your belt, and you should be sitting nice and pretty. You're doing very well as far as someone that I understand is a very good upstanding. And what I mean by well is that you have a roof over your head, and then New York is doing his damnedest to try to take it off of you. That is crazy. Not to get into it, everybody, but Jade is someone that really, really has done well for the community and everything like that. And as a business owner for more than a decade, this is unacceptable. But we'll get more into that a little later. And so, outside of the operational challenges and the technology and anything like that, you want to get into any kind of technology besides the counting machines? What technology are you interested in? Are you interested in like blockchain, mobile apps? What's your favorite mobile app?
Oh gosh, I'm a simple gal from the woods. I don't really mess with all that stuff.
That's cool. That people might want to know. If people be like, nah, I don't mess with any of that stuff
Yeah.
either. That's
I
right.
always joke because again, we can't afford the technology right now. Our fancy equipment that we have at our redemption center is laundry baskets from the dollar store. We use them to sort things out and make it quicker to dump things and count things.
Oh yeah.
But
I too, as I'm a big fan of using cardboard boxes. I think my viewers actually a few of my videos back, I showed them but I call it the CBE, the crude but effective sorting system. It's very good. I mean, listen, I did a couple of episodes where I shout out to the CBE. That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah.
And so technology is more or less somewhere in the back, somewhere in the front of this cottage industry. And as of right now, it is somewhat of a cost factor depending on so many factors because this industry is not a commodity based price fluctuating business. No, 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 no. And that sort of thing.
And
So
you've got redemption centers shutting down in droves right now. And there's a lot of people who own their buildings and don't even have to cover rent. And they're still struggling so bad that they end up closing their doors. The situation has gotten dire in the industry.
it has. I want to just share that as well. A lot of people don't realize that I'm getting ready to share some screens for maybe the viewers that are watching. I wanted to actually get to the bottle. I actually wanted to get to the is there a website that we can go to that you would like to visit? Do you have a Bottle Bill 40 website of your own that you want to share
Um,
with the viewers?
the website that we use is nybottlebill.com.
All right, let's go in. Let me load that up for the viewers in a little bit. But I'm gonna go to nybottlebill.com because I've already introduced my viewers to bottlebill40.org, but
Mm-hmm.
let's check out nybottlebill.com. Also, I'm going to load it up in a little bit because the more pages and the more awareness and things we have for this issue, the better. You know what I mean? Because there can't just be only one person speaking on the issue.
Well, and there's a multitude of aspects when it comes to why the bottle bill should be passed. You've got the environmental crisis is in the forefront, but you've also got the financial impacts too, because you are seeing small businesses close in very large numbers. We've lost 25% of the industry in just 2 years. That's a significant loss. We're talking over 600 jobs that have been lost, and that's just from the closures. That's not even counting people like myself who are still open but have had to let people go to try to stay above water. So that's a huge financial and community impact. And then on top of that, you also have community members losing access to their bottle returns. So right here on this page, you're seeing charities. Those charities are losing access to vital funding when redemption centers close because they bring in such high volume with a broad spectrum of containers. They cannot take it to a regular store where they have volume limitations and brand limitations. They can
You know,
only fundraise through redemption centers.
I wanted to add to that. I really wanted to add to that because you have a lot of redemption centers that do great work. Not just you, Jade. You have a lot of
A lot
redemption
of them,
centers
every one of them does
statewide
it.
that do great work with charity organizations. I've heard so many good stories of owners getting animal rescue centers, the funding necessary or the supplementary funding necessary to continue operating. And so many good things coming from just the tail end of all of this convenience that we see in bottles being produced and plastic waste in a sense. We have a lot of politicians. I'm going to bring it down here so the viewers can see. We've got 165 redemption centers closed in 2 years. What is happening? We've seen
Well,
an increase in more plastic waste than ever before, but we have redemption centers closing. Like, what is that?
it's because the handling fee that we get paid to do the work that we do has not been updated since 2009. And as everybody is well aware, the cost of living, the cost of doing business, everything has skyrocketed, particularly since 2020. So we just can't afford to keep up because we're not like other businesses where we can change pricing on a product or a service to accommodate those rising costs. We literally need legislators to take action on the bottle bill so that
Okay.
we're being paid fairly to keep up with costs. Quite frankly, they're costs that the state is imposing on us directly. They keep increasing the cost of minimum wage, and now they're going to be tying it to the cost of inflation, which
That
tells
is
us
correct.
that those costs are going to continue rising built in And we can't keep doing that on nearly 20-year-old pay. It's impossible.
I want to add to that also because seeing how here we're at the bottle bill page, and I'm going to leave the link in the description for anybody. The link in the show notes for anybody interested. So we're going to look down at the returnable container rack. So this is the law that us as business operators have to abide by. So this is not a fluctuating rate that we look at a chart and try to forecast how much stock should I hold. No, we deal with plastic waste, and it's got to go. There's no value in this stuff outside of, basically just sending it back to the people that made it. And the people that made it make it for cheap and make a whole lot of money about it, because a lot of these products have gone up over 100% over the course of since they started making more and more of these companies. They're not really old, like Aquafina, Dasani. A lot of these companies came out in like 1999, in the year 2000. So they're not really old companies in the sense where when your dad started doing this stuff, these companies really just started coming about. So that is very much interesting. So people that are interested, they want to see how the bottle bill works, check out this website. It's the Department of Environmental Conservation website. But what I wanted to show people are the types of beverages covered and not covered by New York's bottle bill. And so we have milk products, wine, liquor, spirits, hard ciders, non-carbonated tea, non-carbonated sports drinks, non-carbonated juice, non-carbonated energy drinks, beverages in drink boxes or pouches, or waters containing sugar are not covered by the bottle bill, right? Versus if you want to go into actually what is covered, you want to go over what's actually covered, Jade?
It's basically beer, soda, malt beverages, energy drinks, and it gets kind of weird with the
Yep.
water.
I don't know if you're seeing my screen here, but hopefully the viewers are looking as well. It basically says, let's break it down, because you basically laid it out. And you laid it out actually better than it does on the website itself, which is hilarious. Because I wanted to show the viewers that not only are wine products covered by New York's bottle bill, wine products are not covered by New York's bottle bill. What is that? I mean, and that is just one of the parts that makes no sense to me.
I think
And
it's one of the weird things where, like, if it's got less alcohol in it and they're allowed to sell it in a grocery store, because we do get some that have a deposit on it. And
and
if,
it's
you
so
know,
confusing because
yeah,
this is a law that's it's so much vagueness and gray area that it's pretty laughable at this point. And so what we're doing is we're trying to bring some common sense back to New York. We're trying to actually stop just the abuse of our environment. We all mean well in this industry. And I'm going to be doing some more interviews with owners like yourself. We're getting towards the end. We have some time actually if you want to freestyle it. I've pretty much asked you pretty much a lot of questions that a lot of our viewers maybe wanted to know and anything like that. And any other questions, we could probably do this again and, answer them and that sort of thing. Because trust me, you have a very interesting story to tell. So I'm going to unshare this page. Now let's get back to what we had going on before.
I would say basically, if you're a consumer listening to this, don't throw your containers out. If you're not somebody who returns them yourself, give them to somebody who can use that money, or donate them to a community cause, because if you do throw that out, you are literally handing New York State money, and that money could go to something good in your community instead. I have over 30 charity accounts just at my redemption center, and we're able to help so many different causes through that. So, and
That's impressive.
people don't think that bottles and cans really equate to much, but I have one Boy Scout troop who raises $20,000 a year with bottles and cans. That's a significant amount of money for them to use. And they use it in their communities and doing community projects. So don't give New York State your money, because then it just disappears into the abyss and we don't even know what they're using it on.
Oh, the abyss exists, y'all. I'm just gonna let you know the abyss is real. It is
Yeah.
so real. We stare at it all the time. We see money going up in there and never coming back out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Jade, it has been so wonderful to have you on. And I think a lot of people are going to be more interested in what you got going on. I linked everything that you wanted so far in the show notes. I'm going to link it. And anything else that you want to link in the show notes, please don't be afraid to let me know. The viewers are probably going to be watching this from different parts of the world. You represented very nicely, I must say, and continue to do so. That's pretty much what I got to say.
I'm going to keep trying. I'm fighting as much as I can to get this over the finish line to.
Oh, I think this is actually going to be the very, very interesting year in New York State history. Where, as far as Jade, you've been holding it down so long. Listen, you're hanging on to your ship. You're hanging on to the mast of the ship. It's like the wind is coming and it's trying to sink your boat. But we're gonna see, because you know who's actually controlling the weather in this storm? The state. And so if
Hmm.
the state decides to, move its slow behind and actually give a dang about the community, the environment, small businesses and such, they will legalize. They will pass the bottle bill.
Well, what do we hear from politicians all the time? And it doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on. What do we hear from all of them? They all say that they support small businesses and job creation. And then a good majority of them say that they want to protect our environment. The bottle bill checks all those boxes. So for them not to pass this makes no sense.
No, it does not make any sense, because it's the most common sense legislation that
Yep.
is currently in the works of possibly being looked at this year's session. So we're going to see. We're all doing our part. Various organizations statewide are doing their part to get people involved, tell their local politicians. And Jade, you are one of the best doing it. And so I guess that's it.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep trying. And
All right.
uh, viewers should know that they need to contact their representatives if they want to get this over the finish line, because these politicians don't act without a push. It
All right. All right, Jade.
was good talking to you.